Hello, everyone. I am so glad that you're here today. My name's Liz. If you don't know me, I'm the owner and photographer at Chicago Boudoir Photography, and I'm so excited to have Anna with us today. Anna was on Hulu's Exposure, which is a reality type show. It's kind of like a cooking show, but instead of cooking and baking cakes, it was about photography. Guys, I have been saying for years that they needed to make a show like this, and they finally did. Anna, welcome. We're so glad that you're here.
Hi, Liz. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you taking some time out of your Saturday to talk. I know we've got photographers and business owners in this group, people who watched the show, and we're just so excited to hear about your experience. Appreciate you
Yeah,
sharing your time.
absolutely. I'm so excited to talk about it.
So first off, we just love to hear, how did you first hear about Hulu's Exposure? How did you get the idea to even like apply or audition for this? And what did you think when you first heard about it?
It's kind of a funny story. So they put out a casting call at some point, months and months before this started. But I'm not in that world. I'm not looking for at those things. So I was actually made aware when I got an email from a casting director, and I remember I came home. I got this email, and I came home, and I was telling my husband like, "Oh, I got this email today." And anybody that owns a business or is a photographer has probably received like some weird scammy email. And so I kind of like wrote it off, and he was like, "Are you going to get back in touch with them?" And I was like, "I don't know." So he kind of like prompted me to. I reached out to a couple friends to like kind of ask them like, "Hey, does this seem like legit to you?" And they gave me their feedback. So I decided to get back in touch with the lady that emailed me. And she was in fact a casting director for a very real company. And it went pretty quickly from there. I mean, it was, like I said, it was limited details, but basically kind of what you just said. Hey, this is a creative competition for photographers. We want it to be really positive, and we really want to kind of shine a light on this craft. And so yeah, I was really excited from that point. So
How do you think they found you to email you?
Um, that's a great question. I'm not entirely sure. I think that they must have found an article that I wrote several years ago about mobile photography, actually, funny enough. And that led them to my Instagram, which then led them to like, so at the time I didn't have like a working website. I just had this little placeholder portfolio site. Actually, if you subscribe to Adobe and like Lightroom and Photoshop, you get a free, I don't know if you know this, but you get a free portfolio style website. And that's what it was, and that's where I got the message from the casting director. So that's I think how they got to me. Article, Instagram, website, and then to
Yeah.
me. So.
Got it. So do you like pre this show, were you running a photo business? Were you a hobbyist, professional?
No, just a hobbyist. I did in the past. We live in northwestern Pennsylvania, but we moved up here a couple of years ago from Florida. So when I was living in Florida, I did have kind of just like a side gig, like small business. Like I wasn't doing it. We've got little kids, so it was just kind of like filler here and there. But by the time we moved up here and the couple of years that we've lived here for, I was strictly a hobbyist up here.
Okay, so they were maybe not looking for like a pro photographer. I mean, part of the arc of the show is that these people are the participants in the show are not like highly trained professional photographers. The
Right.
show is on mobile phones, on Samsung phones.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
like
that was
part
kind of
of
the
the
twist. Yeah.
yeah, that's like part of it, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think like a more accurate way, because there's definitely like everybody from like hobbyists to semi-pro to pro. I think really what they wanted to do is cover their bases as far as different types and styles of photographers. Like who's a fashion photographer, who is a street photographer, who is like maybe food or portrait. Like so, kind of bringing all these different styles and genres together. And then, like you said, the twist is that the whole show was shot on a cell phone, which people were really quick to write off. And so I was actually really excited for the show to come out so that, like, my rebuttal to that is if you had seen the images that we shot before you knew that they were shot on a phone, would you have known? Because I'm going to guess no.
Do you feel like they put you on the show to pigeonhole you into the momtographer slot?
No, I mean, really, like, it was funny because when they reached out, they kind of said, like, hey, we're like looking for like this certain, and you'll find this with like casting now that I've kind of become more aware of this, especially on these creative competition, they're looking to fill lots of different roles. It was like said to me at one point, you know, you're great, we love you, but a whole show of just you would be like really boring, which is true, so like we don't want like 8 of the same person,
Right.
competing for this thing. And so really what it comes down to, I think, was like that was my story, like that's my story, that's my truth, and I was very quick to open up about that. I've really come up in the like mom tog community. That's where my roots go. They start as having kids and wanting to take pretty pictures of my kids, and I'm not afraid to lay it out that way because that's how I got to where I am right now. So I was very eager to share that, and then once I realized that they were like really interested in that part of my story, I realized I really had this voice for a lot of moms who kind of feel the same way. So
I'm the same way. I started with photography because I wanted to take cute pictures of my kids. So I that totally resonates with me.
yeah, yeah, no, like I said, it's so many people, so many moms and women like start in that place, and then they end up. This is like part of why I wanted to share the story, was just because you start there doesn't mean you need to stay there, but also if you do, that's like completely okay too. There are some of the biggest photographers that I look up to are just documenting their everyday life. Some of them are very got into like portraiture with children, but then some of them, it's like they completely veered off and now they're landscape photographers or food photographers. They work with brands, and they're commercial photographers. So I think it's so cool that you can have the same like intro to photography, and then kind of like from there, everybody kind of ends up in this different place, and that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, of course. Now, if you're watching this live and you have a question for Anna, go ahead and drop in the comments. I'll be monitoring the comments. Be happy to answer any questions for you that you have for her. So I want to talk about like some of the specifics of being on the show. So I've never been on a reality show. I've never been on like a taping or anything. Where was this taped? How long were you there? Did they put you up in a hotel? What were kind of like some of the mechanics of being on the show?
Yeah. So it was filmed in LA, and I was out there for about a month.
Wow,
And
that's a long time.
yeah, I know. I was like, I can't do this. And my husband was like, yes, you can. And I was like, no, like, we have 5 kids. We have
Yeah.
like a really busy life. My husband is still working from home. He works for an insurance company in our IT department. So I was like, how, like, I cannot possibly leave for I don't know how long. And he was like, yeah, you can, like, go. So I went, and ended up being really great because between the show and then just having like some downtime there, just to just kind of be with myself, it's like being a mom, being busy, like you lose that, and it takes like an effort to have that space and time in your life for just you. And so it made me realize like how long it had been since I had done that, and how important it
So you
is.
were there a month and without you didn't see your kids for a month.
Right, yeah, yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and like we're on like
Age
different
range
time
of your
zones,
kids.
so like even just getting in contact was like wonky because like I had really long days out there, and so like a lot of times by the time I'd get back to my hotel at night, they were in bed, and so yeah,
Yeah.
it was really weird.
Yeah. What's the age range of your kids?
Our youngest just turned 6, and then my oldest is 17. So we've got 4
Wow.
girls and a boy. My son is the youngest, and yeah, we've got 17, 15. My middle daughter will be 13 tomorrow, and then 8, and then yeah, my son is 6.
Now, I mean, it wasn't a paid gig, right? So are they paying for your food and your hotel? And I mean, how do you pay for
I
a
don't
month
know
in
how
LA?
much of that I can disclose, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like I went out and it didn't cost me anything, if I can say that.
Okay.
So,
Right. So
yeah.
this wasn't a financial hardship for you.
No, definitely not. No.
Okay. Okay. And so tell me when you first, so it appears on the show that you like all meet for the first time on the show.
Mhm.
Is that actually how it happened, or was there a training period beforehand where they're telling you kind of how to do this? Did you meet people on the show? It looks like you just show up and then they
Yeah,
hand you
we
a
did
phone and
not know each other. Like that was our meeting point.
okay,
Was
that
yeah,
was
we did
real.
not know each other. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And did they just hand you a Samsung phone and say like, here we go? Or did they like sit you down and like teach you how to be on a show?
I mean, they definitely had like hands-on help, if we needed it,
Okay.
to get to know how to use things.
Okay.
I don't, like I said, again, like I don't know how much of the specifics of the behind the scenes stuff I can go into with that. But like I said, like you said, having never been part of like a production or reality show, like I had no idea how many people, how many different companies are involved, all of these people that are on set. And so having kind of like helping hands, like, having Samsung, on set to help out if we needed, or having like, we had like a photographer that was on set that like, if we just needed help with, any of the equipment that we had, like we definitely had
There were people
resources
there,
around us. Yeah,
like if
yeah,
you
yeah.
got really stuck, the light wouldn't work or something, there was someone there to help you.
Right. And like, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like if we're like, hey, what's shutter speed? Can you help me? Like they were kind of like, but none,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously none of us were like struggling with that at all. But like just, yeah, with things that might be a little bit unfamiliar, and it's always a balance of like fairness. Like we couldn't like be like, hey, can you help me set this light up in this specific, like they were there for kind of like troubleshooting and like, hey,
Yeah.
here's how you control this. And, but yeah, like I said, I mean, it really is like a good mix of making us comfortable, but then all like we kind of have like figured out that's part of like being on a reality show is like creating that tension and that stress, and you really
Yeah.
are on a tight time limit and you've got to figure out what you're going to do very quickly. So
Wow. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the specific things that happened on the shoot. Okay.
okay.
So on the show. So the very first, so those of you who haven't seen the show, each episode they have kind of these challenges and you have to create a certain image and then they judge the images. Like I said, it's kind of like a cooking show.
Yeah.
So the very first one was like they showed you a work of art and then you had to create an image that kind of recreated that like famous work of art.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now the thing that really got me is I feel like the instructions that they gave you, the judges, were very open-ended and vague, but then when they got to the judging, it seemed like they had something in mind. So, for example, like the one Parker created something where she tried to like Parker was one of the other contestants. I feel like she really tried to create something that looked exactly like the painting, and she did
Yeah.
a great job doing that. And then they got up to the judging, they're like, "We wish you'd put a little bit of more of your personal flair in it, like pulled a piece of your pink hair out." And she was like, "Well, I thought I was supposed to recreate the painting."
Yeah.
And then you did this really cool thing where you took, I'm going to show it here on my phone. It's a little hard to see, but you took a Renaissance painting and you kind of showed how it was like a modern day selfie, which I thought was such a cool take on it.
Yeah.
And then the judges were kind of like, well, you didn't recreate it exactly. I'm like, what do they want?
Yeah. No, it definitely it's hard, and I think it's funny because you keep referencing cooking shows and it's really made me like appreciate those and think about them in a different light about like things can be so subjective. And so, we were given, basic guidelines and things that they were kind of like looking out for. But yeah, the trick there, I mean, it is hard because you don't know, exactly how well something's going to go over. I think it was like a good mix. For myself personally, I wanted to figure out a way to take a risk. And this is like true of all the challenges going forward. Like take a risk, but not so risky that it might flop. You know what I mean? I was hoping that like at least if it wasn't risky enough that I still might end up somewhere in the safe zone, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Um, I think like I said, we could hash out like everybody's pieces. I think at the end of the day, it has to do with how much how much risk you wanted to take, what could you do to stand out a little bit. And it was funny because I really learned that from the earlier challenge in the show that I took very literally. So we had like the flash challenge was the Throwback Thursday where we had to recreate like a childhood picture of ourselves that like that our families had sent in.
Yeah. Did you know that they'd sent that in, by the way?
No, and like we didn't even know, like I do know that they asked us for photos, for various things as well, but like I don't think any of us were thinking like, oh, this is what they're going to use them for, so it's
Right.
like even just any photos I sent to myself, I'm like, oh, this will just be for like the show. And then like I don't know if they just wanted like a huge variety to pick from. I don't know. So I don't really know how my family came up with that one, but like I said, I tried to do it very literally. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
gotta line these lines up, and I only have like 15 minutes or whatever. Like it was just crazy. So I think going into the portfolio challenge, that was like my biggest stressor. Was like, okay, I did this very literally earlier, and it didn't come out bad, but it didn't stand out.
Judges seem to benefit people who took it like a little bit of creative liberty with it.
Right. So that's what I wanted to do
Yeah.
with the next one was have some creative liberty, but I didn't want to leave the ground so much that I floated so far away from the original,
Mhm.
painting that there was no connection there. So that was how I approached it was what parts of this can I bring over literally, and then how can I make this different? How can I do something different? And it took like a little bit of like brainstorming and kind of dissecting. I spent a lot of time dissecting the photo before I started to really like think about the name of the photo. And then it was like once it hit me, I was like, oh my gosh. So the name of the photo was like a portrait of a young woman. And so I was like, okay, like, wait a minute, like we're, like a portrait today. What is a portrait today? It's a selfie. Like that's what it is. And so it just kind of like spitballed from there. And I figured, oh, I would get my everything set up, get the props done, and then by that time, hopefully somebody else would be done using their phone, and I could just go snag it for a few minutes and use it in my photo. So
Whose phone did you use in that photo?
Maryland's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this picture. By the way, the reason why I'm showing it on my phone is because this picture I couldn't find it on the internet, so I literally took a picture of my TV watching. I'm showing it like this. I loved this picture, and I thought you should have totally won. I just thought you were the one who really had the most creative twist on, like, you stayed very true to the painting.
Yeah,
Like,
I tried to, like I said, bring over some little elements. Like I wanted like the composition, the posing, the lighting, like those are things that I really wanted to nail. And then, even just like the little details, like I put a couple of braids in that like blonde wig and like just like literally bringing over elements from the painting. And then modern, and like I said, that was like my twist on it was like, oh, let's modernize this. So
yeah.
if it's going to be a selfie, and then like I said, like with the processing, like keeping it very like clean and modern, and portrait photography, like so.
I thought that was exactly what they wanted, was a recreation plus a little creativity. The way they were asking Parker to do a recreation plus pull a pink piece of her hair out, like that would have been her version of what you did. But I feel like they didn't reward you for doing that as much as they were.
I mean, again, like I feel like it's subjective, and who is like our guest judge, like that's important. We have different guest judges every time that are like kind of like masters at what they do, and so like I said, that's the hard part here, is that like we were all different, we're all different genres, and we all shoot different things. And so to put us all in this position of having to come up with this, like, I mean, the second that we heard it was self-portrait stuff, we were like, what? Like none of us were excited about that at all, so I think like it's, that's kind of how those things go in reality competitions, is that you've got to be able to get to the end, and to get to the end, you have to navigate through a whole bunch of stuff that you may have never done before. So,
yeah. So on that vein, did they, how much of the conversation would you say was scripted? Did they ask you to say certain things or ask you questions?
No, it's very, like I said, they put you in these positions. I think the funny part is it's like, they know what they're going to get out of you. You know what I mean? Like they know that they're putting pressure on you. They're withholding, info. Like you don't know what challenges are, going forward. It's not like they give you a layout of the show. Like you don't know what's coming next. And so no, the emotions and, walking through the way that you set things up, like I said, that stuff is very, it's prompted questions, I mean, like, hey, explain how you did this, or tell me how you were feeling at this point. Like, and that's how you were feeling. That's what you were doing. It's like I always had this like notion, like I didn't watch a lot of reality TV, but I always had that assumption that like, oh, this is so fake. It's so scripted.
Yeah.
And you get there and you realize like, no. And like the way things just happen, it's like without going into detail, but like the episode that I struggled with, it was like everything, it just happened to be that episode where just nothing was going my way. I was exhausted, and it was just like, it just happened that way, so like I said, it very much, the way that I watch shows now is very, very different than how I would have watched them before. Just knowing how much it's real, like knowing that like I said, they're not like, hey, go do this, hey, go say this. Like
they're not doing that at all.
Right. They want to like guide you from scene to scene. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we've got to get from place A to place B, but like in the midst, they're not popping in and saying like, oh, hey, we need you to say this. Like, no, like they're just working off what you're doing and then like following your direction. So
do you feel like when they cut the show up and you saw the final show that it was an accurate representation of what had happened? Or are you like, oh my gosh, the way they cut this together makes it seem so weird, it wasn't like that?
It just seems weird. I mean, more so it just seems weird because there's so much, I mean, it's like hours and hours and hours of like filming, and it's like condensed into this like less than an hour piece. And so I mean, everything that they put together is like how it happened, but like you're just, like I said, it's like, if you were like in the judging room and it's like, oh, okay, like I was up there for 10 minutes talking and it's like 30 seconds on TV, so it's like, it's hard. I mean, obviously there's no way they could include most of that because it would just be so insanely long that nobody would watch it. But yeah, right. No, like I said, I mean, I feel like it definitely follows the same timeline. It's just, like I said, you just have to cut so much out to get it down to that time bit. So
I want to ask you about the skating episode.
Okay.
So let me show. So tell people a little bit about what they were asking you to do at the skate park.
So they brought us this skate park. So the whole theme of this episode was bodies in motion. So when we showed up to the studio for the first part of the episode, there was actually dancers like in our workspace. And so, yeah, so that was my dancer, Reagan. and we were all randomly assigned dancers and given, I think, like 10 or 15 minutes to shoot them. And so I approached the shoot with Reagan very much how I approached the shoot later with the skateboarder Terrell, which is, for me, like, I love storytelling. My heart is very much in storytelling. And so I feel like the magic happens when someone's doing their thing and you're doing your thing, and you kind of marry those two things, if that makes sense. Like, I don't like to overlay post people. I don't like to create like moments that wouldn't naturally happen. Like, that's, I think people do a fantastic, wonderful job at that. I don't know that I'm the person who does the best job at that. So with Reagan, it was kind of like she had her earbuds in and music that she was listening to, and I was like, listen, like, I'm gonna set this up around you. They give us a couple minutes ahead of time to like set up our lighting, and I was like struggling a little bit with that, but I got it enough that I was able to like, yeah, like that light in the back. I got set up, and then, like I said, I really wanted another colorful light on the other side of her, but I just couldn't figure it out. Like, it was equipment that I wasn't familiar with. Like we were
And
talking
this
about
is stuff
earlier.
that provided for you, the lights.
Yeah, we each had like our own little studio, and so we were able to like move things around, and yeah, we had like some equipment that we could pick from. So yeah,
How
set
much
it up.
time did you have to mess around with that before you had to do something with it? Like, did you have time in that studio to figure out that this was a continuous light and you knew how to use it, or?
No, like on that first episode when we walked in and they were like, "Hey, here's your challenge. Go. Here's your studio." Like, and it was like they were just kind of looking, and I think they might have said like one or two things like, "Oh, hey, the plugs are behind the this and that," and you're just like, "Oh my god, okay." Like, um, so yeah, so it was like
I
that was
love
kind of
this image.
why.
I love this image too.
I know, I love that one, and really, like I said, like I didn't want to overreach and try to do more than I was comfortable doing. So I think that was with the Flash Challenge. Like, that was my first chance to really see like how approaching it in that way worked. How, like, if I could capture her doing her thing and I was finding a creative way. So like with her, my creative intention there was to create literal movement. So if you actually look at that photograph like up close, you can see there's movement in her leg, there's movement in her arm, in her hair, but then like there's certain parts. I was actually like panning with her as she was jumping to
Wow.
get that clearer part of her upper body, but then like the movement in her lower body.
Now,
And
is
so
that the
yeah,
picture that ended up in Times Square?
it is. Yeah, that is the one that ended up in Times
Tell me
Square.
a little bit about that.
That was so crazy. So actually, I got a message, I think from Chris, and like a friend of his was like passing through. He lives in New York City, so a friend of his was passing through and was like, sent him a picture. Was like, "You're in Times Square," and so he like messaged like the group and was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, our photos are in Times Square." So he went down the next day, and Michelle also went down the next day and took photos of our photos up on the billboard, which is so crazy. I wish I could have seen it in person, but
Was it an ad for the show, for the Hulu show?
yeah, it went through. There was like a clip, I think, of like Chris and Marilyn, and then it went through like a little like shuffle of a couple of our photos, using the phones, and yeah, a little behind the scenes. So
What does that feel like to have your
it
photo?
was so oh, it was so surreal. Like, you just never. I mean, like, if I go back a year ago and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have a photo in Times Square," I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." So yeah, that was pretty crazy. Yeah, it was cool.
Amazing. Okay, so
Yeah.
after the Dancer Flash Challenge, you went to the skate park.
Yes. Yeah.
On the show, it feels like it's the same day, but was it the same day or a different day?
Um, I can't remember for that one if they said it was a different day. I
Different
can't
day.
remember. I think they might have even said like, "Hey, like go get some rest tomorrow. You're
Oh, we'll
gonna."
do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so they take us to the skate park, and so having like taken the photo from the dancer that I really liked, like I said, like I mean, after seeing the other ones from the Fast Challenge, I'm like, oh no, it was totally appropriate, like who won, and but I was happy with what I did, and I liked like the direction I took it. So that was kind of the direction I wanted to go in with the skater as well. And so I remember I was standing there. They gave us a little bit of time to chat with our skater beforehand, and I realized towards the end that like some people were taking that time to like figure out like what moves they were going to do, and like we were just chatting the whole time, and like it was really great at the end for me because it really gave me some insight and perspective onto why he was a skateboarder, why he got into it, why he was doing what he was doing. So taking that information, like I actually spent a lot of time editing a different photo that if you actually watch the episode, I think they show it in like a little flash of the
Hmm.
photos I was going through. And I loved that photo too. Like it was he was coming down the rail and I was like at the bottom, and like it had this really dynamic like view and angle, and like the sunlight was coming from behind him. Like the colors are beautiful. but I kept going back to that image that I submitted because of his words, because of what he said. And that was just that, like, skateboarding is, it's his thing. It's his peace and quiet. It's his, that's where he goes to get away and to just kind of like escape the world. And that is his art. That's like the way that he likes to be creative. And so going back to that photo that I took like through that circle, it just cut out the noise. It cut out the chaos. You would never guess. I mean, you could see in some of the other photos like how insanely chaotic that skate park was. And really, I wanted to eliminate all of that and just show like, hey, this is like, he's not doing anything that's like super stressful. He's doing like, this movie he's doing is like super impressive. Like, when they broke it down later, they're like, oh, like his skateboard is like at the perfect angle and this and that, So it was important to me to like capture the essence of like his words, which was like, hey, this is like my thing that I do to just be by myself. And then like taking it later, like making it black and white was part of like creating that like connection to the image that cut out the chaos, cut out the noise. I didn't want it to be in your face and colorful. I wanted it to be like a little quieter, a little bit more peaceful. And then the other part of that was to go through the images with him as well, because the last thing I wanted to do was show an image that looked cool, but then he was like, oh my God, I hate that because I'm doing this all wrong, So
yeah.
Because
really important to understand what made a skateboard move good or bad.
Right.
But if you showed him the pictures, he'd be like, maybe that looks cool to you, but I can see in that picture that I'm not doing what I'm not my best moment here. Right. That was so really part of you.
Yeah. Another photographer might be like, oh, that's a really cool photo. But then like somebody who's familiar with skateboarding would be like, oh, that's bad because of this. You know what I mean? So in the same way that like, as a creative and artist, like I wouldn't want somebody to put out something that I'm not happy with that I did.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want for an athlete or an artist to be not happy with something that was put out in the world.
That was really like perceptive of you to think through it that way.
Yeah.
I don't
know skateboarding, so.
Right. They made a big deal in the show that he was like a single dad. Yeah. And I wondered if they paired him with you on purpose because they're like, you're the mom, he's the dad.
No. And so that's the funny part, like going back to what's real, what's not real.
Yeah.
These things are, when they say like, we've randomly assigned you, listen, there are literal like lawyers present. Like they do these like drawings and stuff like that, like in front of us, because it has to be completely random. So that's like what I'm saying, like how you think like, oh, I wonder if they did that on purpose. Literally, no, they did not. Like it was a random drawing that we were present for. So it just completely ended up that way. And so, yeah,
like off screen, they were actually drawing names.
Yeah, like off screen, they
when we don't see that on the show. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's one of those things like, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that, but I think it's important to say that, like I said, this stuff isn't pre-scripted. They're not like, oh, let's put the mom with the dad. Like it was literally random. I could have ended up with any of those skateboarders and I ended up with him. So like,
that's really
how that ended up, I have no idea, but like like
but also you found that out about him. I mean, like someone else could have like not interviewed him and maybe not even found that out about him, right? So like part of it was that you drew out information about him that helped you create the image.
Yeah, and I mean, he even said like as soon as like I went over and we like I gave each other a hug and I was like, oh hey, I'm so and so, like this is who I am. Like I'm a mom, I'm a this, and he was like, oh my God, like I was looking at this group thinking like none of those people have kids. They're all like live in the city, doing their thing. He was like, I did not expect to like relate or connect to any of you on that level. And so, like I said, getting to chat about that, like he said, like being able to go to the skate park, do his thing, and then go home to his kids, go home to his girls, like that, like resonated with me because that's my life too. Like I said, like there are times that I literally go out and shoot landscapes or, something that's, comforting and calming and peaceful to me. But then it's like come home and then like there's my kids, so like I said, it was crazy and cool that it ended up that way.
So talk to me a little bit about the post-processing and editing process. I feel like in this show, they try to be like, hey, this is a photography contest. We've tried to use phones so that it's more about the essence of the picture. But in reality, it seems like the post-processing and the editing was just a big part of what they were looking for and judging you on as the photography. And I feel like in some cases, the post-processing made or broke the judging.
Absolutely.
Did you feel like you knew that the post-processing was as big of a part of it? Like, I feel like it was just as much an editing competition in some ways as a photography competition.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to like take into account, like, you could give as much weight to one or the other as you wanted. I mean, like if you watch the show, there's definitely photographers who do a lot in camera and a lot less in post. And then there's some people who did very minimal in camera and did a lot in post. And so I think it was more about giving you the time and space to utilize editing programs as you see fit for the most part. There was one
on
episode
camera,
in particular that you had to really use.
You see people using Lightroom, Photoshop, and some in-camera like filters and stuff. Did they say use whatever you want?
Well, so the phones were like pre-equipped, like everybody had the same, so everyone has the same tools. Everybody had all the same lighting, the same phone, the same editing app. So nobody had like an edge over anybody with something different. On the phones, we had Lightroom Mobile, Photoshop Express, and then like the native like Samsung editing tools. And then we all had a laptop that we could use. So if you pay attention during the show, during the Flash Challenge, we could only edit on the phone. So we had to stay on the phone for the Flash Challenge. So the Throwback Thursday, the dancer, the live concert, like that was all on phone editing.
Okay.
And then for the Flash Challenge, we were able to use like the tablet and the laptop, which again had Photoshop, had Lightroom. I think that was really.
It seemed like some of the contestants came with a lot of Photoshop know-how. Like Marilyn was whizzing through Photoshop.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
Some of the contestants were like, "I've never even used Photoshop."
Me, I don't use like that's not like I just told you like my heart is in like storytelling. I know how to do like 3 things really well in Photoshop, and like that's it. Like I could like remove someone. So actually, in my skate picture, Cole was standing in the background, and I had to like remove him. And like I know enough to like so he was actually standing. Oh, I can't even remember where.
In the circle.
I think he was over on the other side of the skater, but like standing up on that ledge, like watching everything. And he was like, so there's actually like in that picture, there's a couple other people, but they're very small and in the background. And
you edited them out.
Well, they're actually still in there. If you look at that photo, there's still a couple people like down. You can barely see them. Nope, other side, I think. Yeah, they're like over. Oh, you can see their heads right there. Okay. But Cole was like standing above them. And it was like, you got distracted by Cole. So I was like, oh, you got to go. Like, I know enough how to like use the healing tool to like take, somebody out with like something simple like that.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Cole and Kat there the whole time you were shooting, watching you shoot?
They were, yeah. I mean, anytime that we were like shooting, they were always on set. They were always around. They would pop in and out sometimes and see. They didn't like stand around and watch like every move, but they would pop in and like check out, what was going on and how you were.
Even for like the 4-hour challenges, like they were there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, so like it's Photoshop though, like that's not my jam, and I love it. I love people create some insanely amazing things with Photoshop, and it's definitely a program that I intend to get to know better. But also like for what I shoot and how I shoot, it's not something that I utilize, on a daily basis.
Like the judges wanted people who were strong in post-processing as well.
Right. Well, I mean, you have to think of like the end goal of this competition. The end goal is, hey, you're going to get a working contract with Samsung. And so they want somebody that can cover all these bases and can really, shine in all of these different areas. And I don't fault them for that, so I wasn't the only one who struggled with Photoshop. And, in the end, I think with that particular like challenge, I obviously bit off more than I could chew, not knowing Photoshop very well. So, I think, like you said, like it's one of those things that you look back and be like, oh, why didn't I do this different? But in the moment, like there's so much pressure, things are moving so quickly that you just kind of have to keep moving forward. And sometimes it backfires, and sometimes you're okay, and sometimes you don't get through it. So.
The interesting things to me about that is if they'd really wanted to only pick contestants that were very strong in photography and editing, they could have, right? Like there are people in this country they could have cast, but they purposely didn't, right? And I just don't know if do you think they purposely had a winner in mind when they were casting? Do you think they had a type in mind?
No, I don't think so. Because I mean, if you're going to go down that road, like I walked into that show feeling so like out of place. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I walked in and was like, literally, what am I doing here? Like, this is crazy. I have like 1,000 followers on Instagram, and like, I'm the worst about posting on there sometimes. And like, I go through like the worst creative ruts of like not picking up my camera, like, I don't think you could walk in, because then like, look, I walked in and was like, boom, in the top. Boom, like I don't want to give it away for people who haven't watched it, but like I mean, really, it was like boom, boom, boom. Like I did so well.
You did fabulously.
And like I think that I don't want to say like it was a surprise, but also like it kind of was, so like, how could you have like scripted? How could you have known that I was going to walk in there and like do what I did, especially like with the band? Like, I don't do that. I don't shoot concerts. I don't shoot cover art. You know what I mean? And like, I went in and approached it the same way I approach everything else that I shoot, and ended up turning out like really successful stuff. And so, yeah,
This
so that was
is
my,
the cover art that you created. I loved this.
yeah. Like I said, like, it was like analytically, like, how am I approaching this? Creatively, how am I going to build it so that it stands out? And so I think that, like I said, how could you have known that looking at my Instagram or that like portfolio website that I had? How would you have known that like that was what I was going to turn out in a posed session? Because that's just not what I do. So no, I think it was.
I love that you picked to do a quadrant with the 4 women in it. I feel like that was your genius moment to create something stronger than anyone else created, personally.
Yeah. Like I said, it was very, and again, like breaking it down, storytelling, and really diving into like the lyrics of the song, and I loved creating that. I had a great time creating that.
I feel like these girls were so over it by the last.
Sure. They were so nice though. Literally, they were so nice. Like they were like super helpful and just like kind of up for whatever.
They had to do like 8 photo shoots right in a row though.
We did, yeah.
I could tell by the end the band members were like taking a lot of pictures.
I don't know. I think they were good with it, to be honest with you.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah, they were good.
Okay, so I want to talk about this image here.
Oh my God, I don't want to talk about that image.
Okay, here's what I want to say. Okay. I feel like the things that they told you, they could have said the same thing about this image. Their critique of your image was the same critique as this image, and I don't understand why.
Well, but also like I said, looking back, like,
okay, tell those people who haven't seen the show, just tell a little bit about that episode.
So that episode was I can't even remember the title of it, but it was all about like
it was force. No, was that the forced perspective?
It was forced perspective episode. Yeah. Well, the flash challenge was like forced perspective, which so I already I struggled with that. Like, I understand how to do it, but like we were in this foreign environment.
Yeah, they sent you out to a park.
Yeah, like I kind of grabbed a couple things thinking like they're like, oh, there's like fields. So I grabbed a baseball and I was like, I'm gonna do something with a baseball. I'm gonna like put it near the camera and then I'm gonna like go like and stand next to it far away, like so it looks small. But like I couldn't, like we got there, the baseball field was super muddy. So I was like really limited on like where I could go in this field. And then like the phone kept focusing on like one thing, but then the other thing would be blurry. Like I just could not get it to come together. I'm like running out of time. I was kind of like, just like freaking out, I got in my own way. And instead of like sticking with one thing the whole time, which is what I wish I would have done, I started bouncing around and trying to make all these different things work. And like, I should have just worked through the baseball thing to begin with. You know what I mean? I should have said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out, like, I'm going to use every second of this time to figure this out.
How long were you at that part?
I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it was short, like 15 minutes. I mean, really, literally, you have like no time. So I was like, oh crap, this isn't working. I need to move on, blah, 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 blah.
I feel like sometimes they could have gotten better images if they've given you guys just a little more time.
Yeah, but I think that is part of the point. You know what I mean? Like, it's a competition and you've got to think on your feet and be fast. And so that would take away a little, like if they gave us an hour for every one, then like we'd have plenty of time to like sit and think and like, do things differently. And so I think part of it is like, how quickly can you come up with something creative and successful? And so like I said, that was my biggest mistake, I think, with that one. Was like, I should have just stayed where I was doing what I was doing, but I like kind of was like, oh crap. And like, I grabbed all these random, instead of grabbing one or two things, I grabbed like 5 random things thinking, oh, I can make something out of something. And then it was like, oh, we'll try this, try that. And then I was like running all over the place. And so I was already stressed out.
And I feel like everyone struggled with that challenge.
Yeah, everybody really struggled with that.
Well, and judges, I'm not sure that they understood the challenge. I'm like, they understood. They just didn't have time to execute. Like,
right, and that was like the biggest problem, I think.
The point of the challenge. Yeah. I'm like, they understood. They just needed 5
more. Even to go back to like Marilyn, who like ended up having like the kind of runner up in the flash challenge, and hers like made sense, like her climbing the flower thing, but she struggled with what I was struggling with the baseball thing, which was like that the flower stalk was like out of focus. And that's what I kept, like, I couldn't see past that to stick with the baseball thing. And like, in the end, I'm like, I should have just stuck with it and it might've been okay. But But like her initial, like what she took to the park initially with like the basket and stuff, like if she could have pulled that off, it would have been fantastic. But like you said, like it was just struggling to
Yeah.
get the pieces to line up.
Do
That
you
was really
do you
hard.
ever wish you had a DSLR with you? Were you like, oh, the phone is the problem?
No, I mean, I think like I understand how forced perspective works, but it's not something I ever tried
Right.
ever.
I
Like
never shot
outside
that.
of, yeah, like I think we all
Yeah.
get it, but not like very few people, like everyone's like, oh, that's really cool. And this is how you do it. But then like, okay, well, let me hand you my camera and have you go do it. And then you're like, oh my God, this is really hard. So I think that was kind of what backfired. I think most of us understood exactly what to
Yeah.
do. It was just trying to get it pieced together.
I thought that was so odd how the judges kept repeating, like, they just don't understand the job. I'm like, they understand it. It's just really hard to execute it.
Yeah, and I think that was like where it really. So then it's like I said, like even with mine, like in the end, I wasn't like super unhappy with what I did with the basketball hoop, but like it was missing elements for sure because it was so like you really had to be like, what is going on? You know, it's like I
Yeah.
did it, but I didn't do it, and I know that I'll completely admit. And so moving on to the second, the portfolio challenge, I was already stressed out, like just like it's hard to come off of failure and then jump right into like a new thing.
Absolutely.
And then like I felt so out of place because I don't know Photoshop. And like I think what I heard was, you know, you've got to have your concept is so important. And so again, approaching it like I approached the ones before that, I was like, wow, I can't just like do some lame photo of like make this guy look tiny next to like a mushroom or something. Oh, look, he's tiny. Because like I wouldn't have had like a connection or a story to that. And that's a personal thing. Like that's on me. And so I like looking back, I'm like, maybe I wish I just would have done something easier. But like I said, like I feel like there was no concept there for me. And so but I also feel like if you watch how we presented our work, like I very clearly hated my photo. I very clearly was like, I do not like this. I cannot, you know, I think at one point I was like, oh, it's so dark on the screen. And Cole was like, well, if it was brighter, would you like it? I was like, oh no, like I still hate it. You know, so, and then to go specifically to like the image you're talking about of Chris's, like he sold his work. He sold it. You know what I mean? He was like, hey,
Yes.
look, like I don't Photoshop and I did this. And instead of me being like, I don't Photoshop and I did this, I was just like, no, this is garbage and I hate it. So, you know, I
You
think
think that played into it?
yeah. And I mean, like Chris was like really happy with what he created, and that's great. Chris is such a creative person. You know,
I
and I think
just
that he
felt
was
like
open.
while I was watching, I was like shaking my fists at the screen. Maybe it's because of the way you sold it, but I don't feel like I feel like what they tried to do was just totally bash you on the editing. But the editing here is also not great. But they gave him a
But
pass.
again, like going back to like subjective stuff, you know what I mean? Like what, you know, and I think that like I tend to look at editing from a place that I'm like very comfortable and familiar with, you know what I mean? But like there are people who edit really crazy, really different, and like that is appreciated in its own light, you know what I mean? So like I don't feel like it's my place to like judge how somebody else would
Well, it's
edit
my place to judge. I felt like you
something.
got ripped off.
Yeah. I mean, I got lots of messages that were like, what? You know, so, and then it was like double elimination. So, like that, you know, like I said, it was just like
Yes.
everything came together in one episode for me. And like, I've been very open about this, like from the beginning, that like I messed up too late in the game. You know what I mean? Like, and whatever it was, you know, like if I tried to overshoot, if I bit off too much, you know, more than I could chew, like, I just think it was like a whole bunch of elements that came together. And you got to think like this is a very small cast, very small, talented cast. I mean, every single person that was there is really good at what they do. Um, and you know, you're getting towards the end of this where like you really are getting down to the people that, you know, can handle, like I did great in the episodes before that, but then this one particular challenge, like I didn't do well. And like I think, like I said, I mean, it's one of those things that's like on a personal level. I think some people would fight for their work. And I don't think, you know, like I said, could I look back and regret that I didn't fight a little more, you know, but like I think at the same time, like I know the standards that I hold myself to, and I could not have fought for that. I just couldn't have, you know. So I don't know. Like I said, I mean, in the end, I think it's hard because I want, you know, people want to say like, oh, well, you know, you did so well, you should have gotten through the next round. And I totally get what you're saying. And I was super bummed that I missed that next one because it was literally photojournalism, which like I love.
I
But
felt
I'm
like you
okay.
deserve. I felt like from an audience perspective, the way they cut and pasted and whatever, it didn't quite sell to me that you deserve to be kicked off. I don't know what you were feeling or how it went, but like as an audience member from what we saw, it felt like a big surprise. And maybe that's what they wanted, but I was like, that didn't feel right. But maybe that's what they wanted, the surprise. But to us as an audience, it felt like you deserved to go on.
Yeah. And like the next round. That was like the hard part was like I said, I think even just from getting there in the beginning, you know, I think like in that first episode, I literally walked in and was like, and everyone's like, I live in New York, I live in LA, I shoot with this person, I do this. And I was just like, literally like, okay, well, that was nice meeting all of you, but I'm going to be going home today. So I'll see you later. And then like I did so well. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, and then like the second episode, like again, like, you know, oh my God, a band, like this is like dream stuff for me, like bucket list, you know, hey, I want to shoot a concert. Hey, I want to work with a band. Like this is all stuff that I would have loved to do at some point. I didn't expect it to go down the way that it did. And then it's like, I pulled it off and it was successful under a time crunch, you know, with limited resources. And so then I was like, okay, like sweet, you know, so I think by the time I got to like episode 3 and did well, and then it was like 4, it was like I really was like, you know, even by 3 I was like feeling the pressure, like, okay, you don't do well 2 times in a row, you just don't do that. And it was like, then you don't do well 3 times in a row, you don't do that either. So then, you know, I feel like maybe that was part of the pressure though too, was that I was like kind of pulling out these surprises. And then with that episode, it was just like, it like quite literally like I like tripped and fell, you know, it was like just
it felt like a gut punch as an audience member because we were rooting for you big time.
Yeah, I got lots of messages that were like, I'm so angry, and I was like, I obviously like kept telling people like I totally appreciate the support, and you know, I overall like that was hard, and like rewatching it, you know, even then like when I was leaving, like I wasn't even crying because I was like upset or mad about the way things went down. It was just more that like this crazy experience is just over. Very suddenly, it's just done, you know.
The emotional wave crashes over.
It was hard. I was like, I'm not gonna cry, and then I like could feel the tears coming. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna cry.
So on the show, they kept talking about how like Parker kept saying like the contestants are like a family. We're so close. We're helping each other. Did you feel a sense of family with the other contestants? Did you hang out offset? Were you trying to help each other, or did you feel some competition?
No, I mean, definitely. I think from the very beginning, it was, I think we all bonded like much more quickly than we expected. And I think part of it is that you just like, nobody else knows what that feels like, except for those 7 other people that are there with you. And so definitely lots of help around the room. I mean, you know, it not like we're obviously in this to create our own things and to try to win or, you know, whatever. But like, yeah, no, we really were like, it was hard as a group. Like I said, it's like even just that first episode, it was like we were having so much fun, and then like boom, like somebody left, and we were like, oh my God, like this is real, you know, like
you feel like someone had died
every time. Yeah, like, and it was like sad because like we all loved, like, I'm not trying to like give away super spoilers or people that haven't seen it, so but like the person that left, we adored, like, you know, so we're just like, oh no, like if they can leave, like anyone can, you know. And it starts to hit you like as you're going on, like I said, like part of having a small cast, I think if it was a huge cast, I don't know that we would have been like that, but it was like, there was 8 of us. That's not that many, to be honest with you. And
have you stayed in touch post-production?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And there's some of us that like chat more than others, but yeah, no, definitely. I think like you said, it's like I don't know, it's just such a weird thing. And then like, sometimes you're like, this was real, like this happened, you know, it's just kind of crazy. I don't know, like it's so far out of the norm for me in my life that I think, like I said, sometimes reaching out to somebody to be like, hey, like how are you doing, like this is as weird for you as it is for me, because I'm having a hard time right now, like
how long after filming before it went live? Like you had this period of time, you know, you've done it, but it wasn't on TV.
It wasn't long, maybe like 6 weeks or yeah, I mean it was really fast. Really fast. Yep. So it was, yeah, like I said, I mean, it was kind of this like crazy thing. I mean, I told you, like from getting that email, and then it was like everything was kind of like boom, 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 and then suddenly like I'm on a plane to LA. You know, it's like you just don't expect. Like I said, again, if I'd gone back a year and somebody had said, "Oh, guess what's going to happen?" I would have been like, "What? No, it's not."
Tell us a little bit about what's happened since the show. I know you're like an influencer for Samsung now. Tell us a little bit about what you've done after the show.
Yeah, so I think really just getting back from the show, like I touched a little bit earlier on, like having that time to myself and being able to kind of really think through. I think especially coming up from like the mom tog community, it's like my sights were always set on like, oh, I want to have this like successful family, lifestyle portraiture business. But then like going into the show and like exploring these other avenues and ways that you can be a photographer, I guess if that's the right way to put it, is like that really like showed me that there's lots of open doors and some of them are harder to get into than others, but like to push myself to do what I want to do, truly what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like where does my heart lie? And that's why I said like in storytelling. Um, and so getting to like assess those options and kind of see like where do I want to go? Like what, I'm the only person holding myself back, and I
Yeah.
think this is like a big, big message that I really want to send to other like moms, especially, but any creatives, like put yourself out there. You do, obviously you never know who's looking. But like, I was talking to a friend of mine afterwards and telling him about like a personal project I want to start. And he was like, oh, that sounds like it'd be a really great book. And I was like, oh yeah, and he was like, no, really, like you should write a book. And I was like, yeah, like I should, like why, like
Why
no
not?
one said I can't write a book. Like if I want to write a book, I can write a book, so, but like, I think there's been prior versions of myself who would have been like, oh, one day I'll write a book. But like, I never would actually get there, so it's like just getting out of your own way and like doing what you want to do. And then, yeah. And then, like you said, like becoming a Samsung partner, like was super, super cool. I mean, here's this huge, huge company that basically like I never would have been exposed to and might never really have like dove into on a personal level with their products and like what they have available. But this experience like brought us together, and then that they were able to like look at me and say like, oh, hey, like we love you, we love your work, we want to work with you, that's huge. Like that was a huge, huge step, especially coming away from the show the way that I did. It didn't feel like it was all for nothing in a sense. And even if,
Yeah.
I say, even if I didn't partner with them, I still took so much away from it. But like that was just like such a like jump immediately back up to my feet. That was like, oh wow, like despite how that ended, this company still wants to work with me and still wants me to, promote their products and show how I'm using them. And like, and I do love them. Like, I mean, that camera is like insane. Like, I mean, think back to phones just a couple of years ago and like the stuff that we were pumping out, the stuff that I like take pictures of, like, I love that I can be anywhere and just pull my phone out and take a picture that I'm going to love because the camera is like so insanely good.
So post the show, you've still stayed in touch somewhat with some of the partners that you met there, and not just the cast, but some of the like.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just networking and like staying, it's you meet these people and like I think like you said, like not being involved in like productions or shows, it's like this it feels like they're part of some other world, right? This like secret society that like, and then it's like you meet them and they're like, oh my God, my son did this thing. I'm like, oh my God, so cute. Like, it's like you just realize like they're just
People.
people and they're just doing their jobs and being able to connect with them like on that level and see like I said, like at the end of the day, like we have a lot of like common goals and things in our life that are run parallel to each other. And so I think like that was like a big eye opener to me. And yeah, like I do like still stay in touch with some of the, people from different companies or producers or whatever, just on a personal level. It's not even like, oh, I'm gonna try to get back to LA one day. Like that is such another world for me. I live in a pretty small town in northwestern Pennsylvania. Like this isn't my daily life. I'm not in LA, I'm not in New York. But I think that like having those connections and like I said, just being able to say like, oh yeah, like I know this person like on a personal level and like and even just being there and connecting, like having some downtime to chat with these people, like I said, like they seem so out of touch sometimes. And then it's like, you just realize like, no, they're just like really nice. The judges were both incredibly nice. The guest judges were all nice. Like everybody that I came across, I didn't have one negative experience with
Oh,
anybody the whole time I was on set. Not once.
that's so good to hear, because
Yeah.
it seems like such a cutthroat place to be.
Yeah, it does. I think, and again, that goes back to like what I would have assumed going into this is like, oh, this is going to be like unfriendly and it could be really like I keep telling people it could have been a really lonely experience. It could have been even more stressful like than it already was,
Mm.
but it wasn't because of those other 7 people in the cast, because of the people that were surrounding us that were in charge of all these intricacies of, what was going on and how things were playing out, and or like the hands-on, like the help, like, hey, I need help with this, I need help with that, I don't understand how to work this. Those people were also quick to step in. And even like I said, then it's like you'd be having lunch and somebody would just come sit at the table and just chat. And so it's like I said, like all these people are just people. And like it was super cool too to like see them like look at us and be like, oh, I can't wait to like follow your journey and where you go from here. Because like, yeah, it is such a random thing to get kind of plucked, like I've told friends before, like I feel like somebody like plucked me out of like the middle of the woods somewhere and like put me on this path and was like, okay, just, start going. And I don't know where it's going. I don't know where it's going to end up, but like I know that like this, I don't take this opportunity lightly, and getting to connect with those people and to experience the things that I did and work with the people that I got to work with. So
Well, I do have to say, I really appreciated seeing you on screen because in some ways your story is my story. It's not exactly the same, but I'm also a mom. I'm also a photographer, and you represented us so well.
well, thank
It was
you.
an absolute joy to watch you. Even if I mean, even if I weren't a mom, I was cheering for you above everyone. I mean, there were great contestants on there with a lot of things, but you captured so much. And
Yeah.
I just like want to say thank you.
Yeah, I get messages from people that are like, you just seem so normal. And like, I want that to be taken the right way. I don't want it to make it sound like, any of the other contestants are like not normal people. But, like I said, like, this isn't it's like I kept saying to my husband, I'm like, this is not real. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
my life. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't how things go. Like, I'm just like a normal, quiet, like person, and we're just going about our day today. Like, for this to happen was crazy. And so it makes me like really happy that people feel like they could connect with me on that level of like, hey, like this is just like your average like person that had this opportunity, and I'd love to see more of that. And that's why I think I want to continue to share and connect with moms or parents or whoever that, like I said, there's so many people that are just kind of, like I said, going through the day to day and trying to do something different with their life or be creative. And like, it's to those people that I want to say, like, keep going, just keep going, just keep putting yourself out there. Like, don't get in your own way, because like what you have to say, what you have to do, what you have to create is important. And like I said, you never know who's watching, but even on top of that, like just to do something, if you feel strongly and passionately about something, just do it. Just do it. You don't have to live in LA or New York and, to be like this creative being in person. Like, find that stuff in your own life, find what makes you happy, and network with other people that are like in the same position.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. Those are words to live by. You are an inspiration in so many ways. And I know you feel like this was just this random opportunity that happened to you, but do you know what? Opportunity meets people who are ready for it. So there were things about that you'd been doing for years before that prepared you to be successful in that. And we appreciate that. And really appreciate you sharing your story and your time here with my group. I know many women are watching and are inspired by what you do. So thanks for joining us. And we'll be watching you, following you on Instagram, and seeing where you take this. And we're going to buy your book.
Yeah,
And all the things.
Perfect.
So thank you so much again, Anna.
Thank you so much thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
You too.